Hi, beauty babes. It's Corinne Fretwell with Soulshift Channeling. I'm here for another weekly choose your reading, Akashic Record reading today. We're going to do two today. So you'll tune into A or B, 1 or 2. It's probably backwards for you guys. A or B, 1 or 2. Red or green. So I'll let you think on that for a minute. If you want to hear about what this is, stay tuned. If you want to jump ahead, go ahead and do that now. But my name is Corinne. I am a soul coach and energetic guide. I work with the Akashic Records and I channel information. I channel source held, divine held information that comes from beyond where people pass over to. So it's not really like dead people layer, people who've passed layer, but I go to kind of the root of our soul, the root of our being experience, which can allow you to tap into multiple lifetimes. And it's very focused on your soul's path and journey and mission in this world and this life. Most of my work is spent clarifying the energetics behind people's roles and responsibilities, and either if you're aware of how that's playing out in your life, in your physical 3D world, in your job, in your home, in your community, in your relationships, either if you know what that is, then working with you on how to get it more clear, how to get it more efficient, how to kind of refine. I love to help people refine. I'm a big efficiency girly. Or if you're kind of muddled on that, I help people identify what that is, or I share the information that I receive of what it is. And the power always lies with you. You get to decide what you keep and what you take. But I share truth from your soul experience. And the whole point of it is to really help people shift their soul, shift themselves to be more soul embodied, to have a wider space for their soul experience to land, because our souls are quite capacious, are quite full, are quite vivacious, can take up a lot of space. And my goal is to help people tune their earthly bodies to be able to hold even more of their soul experience and to conduct their energetics accordingly, and to just really live a more easeful, connected, and fulfilled life. I love working with people who are shepherding their own businesses or are in relationship with other beings, entities, personhoods, whether those are people or pets or brands, because brands, homes, property, businesses all have a soul. And I believe that when we come into correct relationship with those around us, it just helps everyone's life flow a lot easier. And I am motivated to live on the most delightful experience of Earth that we can this time around. So that's my personal motivation in it too. And I love to get to know what people are doing and get to know their jobs. There was an era of my life when I was in school in a master's program to be a counselor, and career counseling always was really an interesting part to me. So I love getting to know about people's jobs and what they're doing energetically, and then I love helping them do it even better, because we love to see you succeed. Anyway, that's my spiel. Thank you for being here. You're welcome to just tune in and kind of like jump in on the channel. I myself appreciate the clarity that can come into my form when I am in contact or around other people who are channeling or connected or have a strong, clear flow. So sometimes I use videos from creators like this for my own like kind of body doubling channeling version, as kind of like a co-working space. Like, how you go to a coffee shop and it's a lot easier to get your work done because a lot of people are also on the focus train. So if you're here to just kind of flow, then welcome. And if you're looking for guidance, go ahead and tune in. What I'm going to do is I'll share a collective message first, and then we'll jump into 2 piles, and then there will be a collective message at the end. It usually kind of themes things up and ties things together and allows people to kind of get queued up to receive the information that's for them. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and say the blessing and prayer that allows me to connect to the Akashic Records. We're going to tune into the Soulshift collective, which is this brand I'm shepherding, the collective of humans that are surrounded around it and are gathered here for that kind of messaging. So that's what it is. You can find more information if you want to work one-on-one or in all the other capacities that I do work. Feel free to find me on my website, soulshiftchanneling.com. Okay. My center with your center, our center with all centers, our center as the one center. I enter the realm of masters, teachers, and loved ones of Soulshift Collective and match our hearts and minds with theirs. Let us find through joy and wisdom the ability to open the universe and ourselves to greater possibility and deeper love. Eternal Source, fill our hearts with clarity and sacred power and show us the collective's place of balance. Hear us now as we become one with the whole. When we are complete, release us in love and admiration, keeping our energy raised. The records are open. Okay, my loves, I'm going to start with the visual and then the messaging that I saw, which is, it reminds me of like in New York City, the ball that drops at New Year's, right? And I feel like it gives me a little bit of like Epcot Center vibes. You know, Epcot at Disney is kind of like a giant, it almost looks like a golf ball, but this like multifaceted, very geometrically patterned, looks like it's made up of a lot of little triangles, very reflective, very bright, very like twinkle light-y. And I see almost like it's just like the top cap of that, and I feel like we're all up on it, and it feels important to say that maybe not the intention, but the function at least of what the collective around Soulshift and Soulshift channeling is doing is it's very much like these folks together standing up on lit ground. You've got perspective. It's kind of getting everyone near, focusing people's attention on a shift or transition. Like the ball dropping feels important, and I do feel like this is kind of cosmically aligned when it comes to upgrades and up-leveling, or just a shift and a transformational movement. That's what we're here for. It's here for the world to become a better place. Okay. Short and sweet for the collective intro today. We're going to focus on tuning in to group 1 or group 2. I hear yellow or blue, red or orange. Let's just organize that out really quick. All right, group 1 is yellow and red. 1. We're not even going to include the letter today. 1 is yellow or red. Group 2 is blue, orange, and green. Group 1 or group 2? All right, let's start with group 1. Group 1. Group 1. All right, my darlings. I see, it looks like piano keys ahead of you, but it doesn't look like normal size piano keys. I don't know if you remember that movie Big, I think it was Tom Hanks, or if you've seen those like big mats that had piano keys. It was only like an octave or 2 octaves of piano keys, but I see just kind of like these big, it looks like flaps in front of you, and you would play them kind of like a piano. But I also see you being able to lift up and see messages beneath them. And it's almost like it's reminding me now of my grandmother who plays solitaire, but like plays solitaire with a deck of cards, and like, you know, kind of like peeking beneath the pile to like choose which card, which pile you want to pull from, which card you want to pull. And I hear kind of like a tisk, like a tisking sound, but almost like the energy of my grandma playing cards, because she is still quite I wouldn't say proper or strict, but more disciplined than most. And there's something to be said of like, okay, so if the person that you see that's like pretty disciplined and the one who's like going to kind of keep you in line, if you see them kind of peaking, like, you know, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, is it playing the game with maximum integrity? Not necessarily, but it's not even integrity that you're compromising by peaking, right? It's not like you're competing with other people. And I think that's the biggest reminder here, is when you're playing life, or when you're playing this certain scenario that you're questioning about, there's this, I feel like there's this energy of, you could play like you're competing, but that's not true. You're not, there's no one you're competing with. Even people who say like, oh, I'm just competing with myself. No, you're not competing. The goal of this experience is to make something beautiful, if not enjoyable. You know, if you're composing a song, it's not about being the fastest or the most precise, even though speed and precision might be part of your experience. It's not even about composing something that's the most beautiful, because sometimes dissonance in music can create the tension and resolution that is extremely satisfying, and that is more entertaining, captivating, and transformative than something that is just beautiful. You know what I mean? And this reminder to just kind of like get clear with yourself in this situation. I feel like some of you have like a really large life approach for this pile, but then there are some of you who have like a pretty precise, like you're asking about something in particular, like it feels very job oriented. And there's a reminder to come back and recognize what the motivation is. What are you trying to gain? Not someone else, not your parents or your boss or your partner or your family or even society. We're not asking about their expectations, desires, and goals. We're asking about yours. And I have a feeling that clarifying your goals is going to release you from some pent-up aggression and a lot of anxiety and a lot of limitations that you've let run your life in a way that's really just not fair to you and not fair to your routines and rhythms. Because the fact of the matter is that you came into this life to play a certain rhythm, to dance a certain rhythm, to weave a certain pattern. And if you're playing by other people's rules, expectations, like you're not coming here to do what you came here to do. Now I hear, but what about fear? Now what about fear? What about the things that motivate us to stay in society's form and shape and expectation outline for us? It still doesn't even serve society. It still doesn't even serve the people who are asking us to stay in that box, because the fear that we're feeling is not ours, it is theirs. I'm going to say that again for the brain cells in the back. The fear that we're feeling is, oh, and now I hear it different, is ours, not theirs. clarifying where the fear lives is important. Recognizing your fear and recognizing others' fear and recognizing that the two are in fact very different is important, because if you're playing to keep your fear at bay, I know you don't want to do that. And if you're playing to keep their fear at bay, it's really not helping them. Because when we play small or when we play different to prevent fear from arising, it just feeds it. It just makes the fear bigger because it puts it off until next time, instead of opening up our form, opening up our capacity to not only hold the fear itself, but to hold the structure that it lives in. And when we get to know the structures that create fear or that hold fear, or where fear is founded, I mean, that's when we've got work to do. So let's dial it in a little bit, because I feel it getting a little heady, and I love a heady conversation. I'm so here for a heady conversation. But drawing it into group one's experience. All right, we're going to keep it wide today. Let's talk about two parts, though. Let's talk about others' fear first. Let's say someone else has, you're working, you're moving, you're operating in a way that activates someone else's fear. And now you've got a couple of choices. You could make yourself smaller, you could remove yourself from the situation, you could do something different to not trigger and activate their fear. You could stay on doing what you're doing, or even do what you're doing even more so that the fear is more actively initiated. This is important to do when the fear is not completely known yet to you or the other person, especially. If the other person is not, or institution, whatever, is not aware that they are playing with fear, that fear is playing out through their body, this is the situation when you would want to exacerbate. And then you've got another option, not that there are just three, I'm sure there are infinitely more, but we're going to break it down like there are three. The third one is do what you do, but start a conversation. Start gaining input. Help kind of knead and massage the fear and the space around fear. Because I'm seeing when we are in service to ourselves and to other, which is one and the same if we're really doing it right, the goal is to recognize and transform fear, to move beyond it. And I'm not saying disregard, because that's damaging, and also doesn't fix the fear. It doesn't alleviate, it doesn't satiate it, it just buries it deeper and makes it harder for the next person to find. But when we're in service to ourselves and others, and we're working with fear held by another, the most ideal opportunity is when we can unpack and understand where that fear came from and why it's happening and what it's about. Because when we are able to allow ourselves to go back to that opening image of like the New Year's ball that drops, but that has many facets. It just feels like it's built of a lot of different triangles, and there's like disco ball energy, which has been a theme lately. But when we're able to kind of take a multifaceted approach and kind of let the light, let divinity come in, let information, let illumination bounce off of us and onto something that's confusing, it can help illuminate and like see what's really going on. It can help both for ourselves and the people who are holding that fear, can kind of help illuminate, like, okay, what are these knots? What is this attached to? What shape is it? What does it look like? What does it need? You know, what is it calling for? And when we and that person especially, because ideally we're empowering the other person to step towards their fear with more confidence, more hope, more belief that they can shift and transform and work with their fear to put it down themselves. It's just that we might be aware of it first. And the dance is, how do we honor who we are while I hear gratiating. I'm not sure if that's even a word. Gratiating while gracing, while giving permission, while playing a part of illuminating fear for another. So that's the part of working with fear with others. When fear comes from ourselves, that's a different situation. It takes perhaps not fragmentation, but a multiplicitous self, a self that can hold multiple selves, that can hold multiple truths, that can hold multiple perspectives, which is a really good practice to be able to do, both for yourself and others. But it requires or necessitates being able to hold our fear and then hold a version of ourselves that's not consumed by fear, that can witness that fear, that can maybe not a sneeze, that can not necessarily just be protected from fear, but can witness it and has the patience, stamina, and wherewithal to witness fear. It takes a lot to witness fear, whether it's in ourselves or in others, because it doesn't have to be, but it can be very taxing for our adrenals, for our nervous system. It can be very exhausting. And so if we are living in our own fear, if we don't have space to separate ourselves from our own fear, it's we just have less bandwidth to look at it. We can also ask for help and ask for others to witness us, to perceive us, to help us tussle out and help, and ask others to use their channel, divine form, perspective, point of view to get a handle on what our fear is and why it's attached to us. Not necessarily figuring out and pinpointing where it came, but figuring out why it's still with us. And I want to double down on this for a moment. It feels really important to realize that when we're doing releasing work, it isn't always about where it came from. That can be helpful information sometimes, but you don't have to know where it came from to let it go. More important than where it came from, especially if it's not from you, especially if you're carrying it from your lineage, especially if the incident first occurred not in your body, but in someone's outside of you, whether that's working with someone else's fear, working with lineage fear, working with I hear exposure fear, like when you're around someone who carries so much fear that you kind of bring it on yourself, like your nervous system and your body begins to attune and react to certain stimuluses the way that that person would, but you don't have the core wound in your body. This is kind of where we're getting, and in the cleanup of things, in the cleanup of the planet and of the earth, which is a really beautiful place to be, but gets trickier when it comes to untangling knots that weren't ours to create or weren't created by us. It's like you get to know your own patterning, you get to know your own tendencies so intimately, in a way that you're like, okay, I know that this is probably the pattern. You just have a lot more information. Whereas if you don't have that information from the biological being who created the fear knot, it's you got to be way more in a place of curiosity to undo it. You know, you can't just skip steps. It takes a lot more diligence and staying power to do that. There was a point to all of that. In this day and age, though, we're dealing with it more and more. Yeah. Let me check in and see if there's anything more for this group today. Yeah, you're going to make it through this fear moment, this fear time. Just the task at hand is to recognize, is it mine? Is it other? And where is it both? And then to try and tussle out, okay, when it is a situation of both, which usually it is, which part is mine, which part is other, and where did they come from? And basically looking at not the fear thing itself, but where the fear is attached to the human body, where the fear is grounded, what mechanism, what emotions are the attachment point for this fear to land. Because if you can look at the emotions are kind of like, I don't know, the bolts that attach it to us, right? And if we can get to know the rigidity and the stress and the anxiety, or like whatever's happening around those emotions or beliefs, it's like the beliefs are the bolt itself, the emotions are what hold the bolt. It's just like they go hand in hand. And so if you find the fear first, then you find the emotions that the fear elicits, then you find the belief within the emotions. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense to me. I think it probably needs a little bit more time to land in my body. But I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope it's going to give you some clarity and guidance on whatever you're working with here. The next reminders that I hear are, remember that you have multiple tools to use, especially if we're looking at like bolts. Like, remember that you have an adjustable crescent wrench, and you have a socket wrench, right? And you have pliers, you know, and you have different sizes of things. You have other people who have tool chests, and it's important to ask for help. And when you ask for help, what I'm seeing in this experience, it's not in always, but in this experience, I'm seeing that you need to not only ask to borrow a tool, but you're needing to ask for adult supervision. You're needing to ask for the person who you're borrowing that tool from to supervise you. They do not need to do it for you. We are not asking others to do it for us. Absolutely not. Because we're in the process of skill building here. You're in a period of your life when you are scaffolding up your experience, where you are building additional skill, and you're needing to learn how to fish, not just be given fish. So make sure that when you ask for help, you're very clear, because I have a feeling there are a few people around you who, I don't think they're doing it intentionally, but just either are used to doing things for other people without being asked, are just not, like, it's a learning curve for them too. Sometimes when someone asks for help, we're just like, it's easier if I just do it myself. This is a learning process for them to slow down and sit with their own nervous system while they witness someone struggling and kind of figuring out how to use a tool. and how to build a new skill. It also is going to, how do you say, encourage the development of language around teaching, problem solving, passing knowledge. And this is going to serve you and this other person really well. So even if it feels easier for both of you, for someone else to just get the job done, don't do it. Don't give in. Don't give in. All right. All right, coming back to the beginning where there was like the piano and the different options, now I'm seeing shrubs, and they almost look like juniper shrubs. Kind of like evergreen family. And I see different sizes. I'm seeing that for those of you with a couple of, you've got a couple of tasks at hand, right? Or a couple of challenges on the radar. It doesn't feel like the main thing that we've been talking about, but it feels like something a little bit different, but related. And I see 3 shrubs. One's big, one's medium small, and one's small. And one would think to start pruning or trimming the smallest one, but in fact, it's really a lot more helpful if you go with the largest one first, because if your shears are dull, if they're not sharp, if you over trim, if you make a mistake, this much bigger plant, has a way easier time recovering than the 2 smaller ones do. There's a lot more resource, there's a lot more established roots, it's a lot more impenetrable to the elements. So instead of working your way small problems to big, start with the big one first. Start with the, you'll know what I mean. And then when it comes down to it, like you practice your broad brush strokes on the big one first, and it doesn't even really need a lot of precision. That's when you move to smaller and smaller projects, smaller, more fine detailed challenges with more specific tools, because not only have you developed your ability, the way that your muscles move, you're much more well practiced. For those of you who are going to be saying things with your words are going to be more fine tuned. You're not going to just be like bumbling over things or tripping over your words as much. Yeah, the more practice you get, the more smooth things will be, and that's going to be important when you work on these smaller shrubs, because there is less room for error. You will need to kind of focus in on detail more. Your focus is going to need to be more refined, not narrow, but more refined. Scale is more important. Yeah, scale is more important. Where you fit and where your tools fit within the grand scheme of things. And then I'm also hearing like the smallest one, don't even get to yet. It's not time for that, because I have a feeling that it has to grow a little bit more before you can really work on it. I also am hearing that it's in a different season of life, like it's budding out. Like I know that there are certain times of year that you should and should not prune plants. And what I'm seeing here is it's got a lot of fresh growth that's just beginning to come out. And if you clip it too soon, it's gonna like put it into shock. It's gonna like really, whereas if you just wait a couple of weeks, the fresh buds like kind of harden up a little bit, and it's just way more resilient, and it can take critical direction a lot more effectively. Okay, group 1, thank you so much for tuning in. If you need additional support, you know where to find me, and I'll see you every Wednesday. All right. Many blessings. To group 2, this is for you, group 2. All right, group 2, welcome, welcome, welcome. Right away, I am seeing diamonds come in. It's just like diamonds of lots of different shapes and sizes. It feels like they're flowing in. It's so funny. It feels like they're just flowing to you. It does not feel, it feels very magical. It does not feel like, I'm not seeing three-dimensional facilitation on how these things are coming to you. It's not like they're coming up through a dumbwaiter, or like someone's dropping them off, or they're coming in a sachet or anything. It's like they just literally feel like they're coming out of the sky. It feels very video gamey, you know, like where you are like I don't know, like a Mario or something, where you're going and like the coins just kind of like flow from, when you hit them, they flow from you to the little coin box or whatever. And it's just like, it's very magical realism. It's very like I'm hearing wishful thinking. I see. Okay, so I think you've been picturing a lot of manifestation lately, or it feels very abundance, but not just money abundance. It feels like wealth of many kinds coming in, and it almost feels like you're imagining you live in a world that we are going to live in, that we will live in one day. 100% will there be a day that things just kind of zoop in, right, and come into form. Not quite like what I was describing before, but pretty close. But we're not there yet. And I'm seeing this reminder to, the contrast that I'm seeing is mining and mining diamonds, and these diamonds coming out of the earth. And it's not to say that you can't manifest these things. It's just a reminder that the physical brilliance, the diamonds that are coming in, for whatever those are to you, whether that's your health, physical wealth, financial wealth, time abundance wealth, whatever kind of wealth that you're calling in, is going to need to come from the three-dimensional planet. And all that's to say is, like, let it come from different places. Let it be delivered to you. You do not have to do all the work. Just because you want diamonds to come across your table does not mean that you're going to have to go to, I'm hearing, the Congo and dig them out of the dirt yourself. And then I'm seeing like, how do we say this? Yeah, all the messed up stuff that's happened with diamond mining, blood diamonds, all sorts of really inequality. That's a very nice way to say it. Really messed up power dynamics with people's lives on the lines, and not only lives, but livelihoods and sanctity of being. Just basically, all of this wealth and abundance is going to come into your life. I have a feeling that the way that you're calling it in is you want it to come in with integrity. I hear you. You want it to come in without detriment to others. Like, I know that. And I'm hearing we're reworking the systems to deliver physical, tangible goods in equanimous, in equal, in justified ways, in ways that have justice about them. So be patient, give us time, I hear. But it is important that when you do call resources in, I'm hearing the way your needs get tended to first is if you add the caveat of wanting it to be fair and just for all in the process. For not saying, I just want to make my wealth and I don't care if other people suffer because of it. Is that true? Is that what you want? Because those requests are going to be kicked to the bottom of the list. And when you can say your blessing in prayer and say, hey, I want this wealth to come in, and I want every hand that touches it to be well compensated. I want it to be justly brought into the experience and into existence and into this world. And when you have a more fair-minded approach, that's how that request kind of like shoots to the top of the list, first off. And it also sets the gold standard. It sets the standard for requests that are going to be taken, right? If we're judging others, if we're judging and nitpicking others for their lack of equality, but we're not holding ourselves to the same standard, it just creates a block in the flow. We can't be calling out, that's not fair to say. I was going to say we can't be calling out Jeff Bezos and then be doing some of the same practices ourselves, just on smaller forms. That's not fair to say, because it's like different amounts, different wealth, different resources. Those are not even apples and oranges. It's a wildly different thing. But the principles are all the same, right? And we need to make sure that every step of the way, that every participant involved, living or not living, needs to want to be there and needs their heart lit up in the process. Okay, moving on to the next point for this group. How are you guys feeling today? Good, I feel that. All right. Oh, actually, I hear that is it. Nothing more for this group. Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in today. Got what you needed to hear. Let's go ahead and close out this experience. In love and light, I thank our masters, teachers, and loved ones for their information and guidance. Amen, amen, amen. The records are closed. All right, y'all. The last thing I see is binding. It feels like binding rope with a gold metal wire. And you know how when you have the end of a rope and you want to make an eyelet shape, like where you want to make a loop out of it, I'm seeing, I wish I had a rope right here. So if you have a rope and you bend it over and then you use wire to fasten it and kind of pull it down, there is this reminder that to make it super strong, you want to leave enough of a tail that's uncompressed, right? Think of a braided rope or like a twisted rope, right? That when you compress it with this thin wire, it like kind of, it consolidates it, makes it more dense, like wraps it down in size. And if you wrapped that tail all the way through, it would be a lot more easy for it to just slide out, right? Because there would be no kind of stopper on the other end. But if you leave that tail beyond the gold wire that's wrapped, it kind of anchors it in, because you've got this tail that's larger than the part that's wrapped up. I'm hearing, like, to some it might feel messy or chaotic or scraggly, but it's very important to, function over form, or function over aesthetic is important right now. I think you're learning, this gives me some group 2 vibes, I think you're learning new tasks and tools, and sometimes we can be so concerned with the way that it looks that we inadvertently compromise the steadiness or the structural integrity of something. We can be so caught up in the floweriness of our words that we miss getting the point across, which hopefully did not happen here today. it's just important to focus on function right now. Make sure that you're being clear, make sure that you're being direct. Don't clean things up too much for fashion's sake. Make sure that you are looking at things utility first and you're giving them time to grow. Make sure you're giving it time to grow. Okay, loves, thank you for tuning in. My name is Corinne, and I'll see you next week. Bye.